Welcome to the first episode of Real Buddhism by myself, Don Lotus, with Blue Wave Soma, the organization supporting people who are consciously curious to realize their divine aspect. Bit of a Western expression. I mean, the Western interpretation of the Eastern expression is Buddha. You could talk about the soul, you talk about the spirit. Yes, but there is an aspect of us that can't be seen, that we can certainly say exists. And it's important for us to be able to know that aspect of us and how it works in the universe, so that we are as empowered as we were made to be, as we were born. A lot of people tend to focus a lot on the three-dimensional realm, on acquiring material things, and what people are not so aware of is the formless realm. It doesn't seem real, that it doesn't exist, but it's very real. I am talking and expressing ideas, evoking emotions, feelings, and so, you know, you can't see those things. And more than that, there's all sorts of consciousness development that we can engage with once we become knowledgeable of our formless divine aspect. So the reason why I've taken this approach, as I've already said, there's all sorts of connectivity and abilities that can develop if one is reconnecting with their divine aspect. Divine aspect is kind of more appropriate than soul or spirit, because soul and spirit still suggests that there is some degree of separation. There is certainly individuation, but in the formless realm, we are all very much connected. We can say that across time zones, in different geographical locations, people can still connect somehow, talking or not talking, right? So there is some kind of formless connection we have with all entities that we meet. We can trace a signature for every entity upon meeting them, and we can tune into that frequency and send communications and positive wishes. So the divine aspect is very much connected to all of us, and when we enable that divine aspect, that divine aspect is actually not only manifested in psychologically, it's embodied as well. Some of you may know of Tantra. Tantra is, there are two types of Tantra, okay? But the type that I'm talking about, that has very deep Eastern roots, is the one where your body, you're embodied by spirit. You establish connection of mind and body through breath, and one is then able to also draw energy into the body by becoming aware of becoming more aware of reality and how the body can integrate with reality. So Tantra is an advanced case of embodiment of the divine aspect, and building up to that, there's many things that we can observe about living in this divine aspect in this enlightened way, and there's more things we can learn about the formless realm, the conscious dimension, especially because very few have actually been able to determine how it works, because it requires a reductive science based around things that are not seen but comprehended, realized. So there may be like a fleeting moment of a leap of faith in realizing this formless realm, but it's apparent to all of us, really. This formless realm we live in all the time, but we're not fully tuned into it and how it works, and that is where humanity is like stagnating in this consciousness plateau, because they won't put the effort into exploring the formless realm. Now, I say not put the effort in because the work's already been done. If you look at the Vedic scriptures, if you look at Buddhist scriptures, it's quite well recorded and documented. So for over 2,000 years, the information has existed, but people in the West just have not engaged with it, chosen not to engage with it, regardless of how enthusiastic they are for proceeding in the spiritual realm. It's quite a confusing situation that if people were proclaiming how amazing, becoming integrated with their spirit was, but they hadn't really done their planetary research. We live in an information age. We have computers, phones, the internet. So what is the holdup? To me, Buddhism has not really been presented in the most realist way. It has been understood mostly as a religion, comparative to Abrahamic religions and all other religions that profess a way of life based on beliefs. Often these religions will present a truth and expect one to just accept and proceed with that perspective. Buddhism is different, really, at its core, and is beyond a religion. Buddhism tries to take the perspective of all aspects. That's first. Like, Buddhism tries to look at all situations from all aspects. So, one person might think one way about something, another person another way, and another person another way. And Buddhism would say that, well, all these perspectives are correct. Even if someone is presenting a perspective that they are deliberately saying is not true, they are expressing a truth about their untruthfulness. So Buddhism is saying that everything is true to a certain extent. In the West, there's the early stages of truth where there's been so much deception in our world that just having a personal truth and people expressing a personal truth is sufficient and remarkable. So, second on this. So secondly, Buddhism tries to guide people in a way that they can learn for themselves. Now, that's very different from every religion that assumes an authority role, that assumes an insight and a favoritism with the greatest power in the universe, assuming they know that great power better than the people they are selling it to. And those two major differences, I hope, in knowing that reality, I hope that should be enough for people to start seriously looking at Buddhism along with this series, because it really has so much to offer. Over 2,500 years, it still has so much to offer that the West has not realized yet. So, those are two foundational approaches that Buddhism has that makes it distinctly different from religions. And people who regard Buddhism as a religion have not got into it deep enough. To say Buddhism is religion is to not really comprehend it. So I thought I'd begin this first session. Besides talking about why I'm doing this and why you need to listen to this, let's begin with at the beginning of Shakyamuni's teachings. Shakyamuni is the name for the sage of the Shakyas. That was his sort of living title. Posthumously, like the West has called him Buddha, but Buddha, he would never call himself Buddha. Buddha is a word that means awake, or awakened. So it's descriptive and not really his name. And indeed, everyone is considered to have a Buddha nature. Like everyone is expected to have a spirit, everyone is expected to have a soul. Well, most people, you know. Some people do really test us, don't they? Make us question if they have a soul. I'm presuming as long as they're alive, they've got one. They just have a lot of blockages and obstacles that they have put up, so they don't have to deal with their soul. So let's get back to, let's start. The Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths is from the Hinayana. There are three major schools in Buddhism: Hinayana, Hinayana, Mahayana, and Vajrayana. And the Hinayana is for voice hearers and those interested in their personal enlightenment. The Mahayana is for deeper thinkers, people who are capable and willing to know the mechanics of consciousness, the science of consciousness and reality, and the method of transformation. That's the Mahayana. Most people who say they are Buddhist or know Buddhism, they just perhaps know the Hinayana really well. Very few people I speak to, no one I speak to has a deep awareness of the Mahayana. Some people went in for the Hinayana, some people went in for the Vajrayana. That's like Tibetan Buddhism. However, for Vajrayana, they advocate studying the Mahayana, but many people just jump straight to Vajrayana and didn't touch the Mahayana. I will certainly be covering the Mahayana later, but we're beginning at the beginning with the Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths go like, there is suffering. The second is, there is an end to suffering. Yeah, it's possible. So there is a cause to suffering. Right. And then, well, if there's a cause and there's an end, there's a path. A path. A path. You see? Hello. Hello, Buddhism. A path. You see, there's a path in the conscious realm, in the formless realm. And people think, that relates to like a single path in the realm of form. And it's not quite like that. You see, the path is always going towards greater harmony. Greater harmony means greater, broader awareness. And then within that greater, broader awareness, harmony, one needs to be able to create a stable cognition of their world, of the universe, to be able to continue building on it and increasing awareness. So if you haven't got the foundation blocks for like discerning reality and being able to stack your wisdom and awareness, and you're depending on the slower sort of grey matter, and it's going to be hard. It's impossible. It's actually impossible to grow the awareness if one is not connected to the soul. The soul is able to record and recall everything. The mind is quite transient. So, the Four Noble Truths. Now I want to break this down a bit. I mean, that all makes kind of sense, right? There's a beginning to it. Now, it exists. There's an end to it. There's a beginning. So there must be a path. But how we solve our suffering is very individual, from person to person, from location to location. So in that sense, there is one path towards harmony and greater integration, greater alignment in truth. But how it manifests is differently, you know. I think people get this idea that from martial arts or something, like they need to be doing all these practice rehearsals and movements and just repeat them, and that is the only superior way. And how Buddhism approaches it is saying that you have the potential to develop your own wisdom. The path we offer is for you to develop your wisdom. It's not to tell you what to do. It's a path for you to cultivate your wisdom, develop greater clarity on your discernment. So there is a path. It talks of, it's a very customizable path. It's completely dependent on how willing one is to resolve one's suffering. So we have a path. Now, Shakyamuni, it's like he may have said suffering to begin with, but as you get deeper and deeper into Buddhism, see, as we know, there is an end to suffering. Well then, if we know also that we come into the world with nothing, then, and if suffering is created through ignorance, or not knowing, and as a child, it's hard to say a child is ignorant, but they come into the world not knowing. They come into the world unaware. So it might be better to say, more accurate, more universal, to say that there is unawareness, there is an end to unawareness, there is a beginning to unawareness, and there's a path to awareness. So to me, that is more real Buddhism than on the Four Noble Truths than what is currently spoken about. Why are they called noble, you might ask? Noble relates to royalty, and in the West we have been fed this narrative of how royalty are supposed to be just luxuriously above everyone else. Initially, the title of royalty was given to those who were able to protect others. Right? So that's what noble is talking about here, noble truths. These are the four noble truths that will serve to protect. And if one can know this deeply, if one can deeply resonate with this, then one begins on their path. Now, the idea of saying that it's suffering, it's great, you know, it's relating to the people to where they are now. They're in a state of suffering, and it's like suffering is like, it's got a much bigger sell to it than say unawareness. And you know, suffering has more of a like a call to action narrative to it. So maybe, like, you know, Shakyamuni was, you know, great at marketing. You know, I don't deny Shakyamuni really knew that unawareness is really the universal expression of it. So you have the Hinayana, which is for voice hearers. Now, voice hearers, think about voice hearers. Voice hearers, you know, they are happy to hear what is true and go, yes, this is true, this is real. And they're happy to share and exchange during the day, but they're less inclined to be thinking and pensive. You can say these people are excellent verbal communicators. So it's very easy to communicate four things in a way that everyone can understand, that could trigger anyone to start caring about themselves, to develop their awareness, and cease their suffering. Thank you for watching Real Buddhism by myself, Don Lotus, with the Blue Wave Soma production. I hope you're having a great spring. It's certainly a wonderful and lovely day to come out and do this talk with you.